Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webcast. It is Saturday, November 2nd, 2024. I'm South Ops meteorologist Eric Drewitz. Looking at the water vapor satellite imagery, you can see we have a large ridge of high pressure across the eastern Pacific with an upper level trough digging across the west coast, including Southern California. Looking at the visible satellite imagery, you can see that it is a cloudy morning across Southern California as that upper level trough digging through and bringing clouds and some shower activity to our area. Latest radar imagery shows a band of showers moving from northwest to southeast across central and southern California this morning, and these showers look to be fizzling out the farther south and east they move. Here's the 24-hour RTMA temperature comparison, and most areas look to be a few degrees warmer today compared to yesterday. I hope you all like the new and improved graphics. I've been busy these past few months, and now you, if you really want, could create these graphics yourself by downloading and installing Fire Weather Pi on Anaconda. It's a Python package that I created over the past several months, and now it is available for download and installation. Here's the RTMA frost and freeze areas, and you can see that the Sierras are quite cold this morning with a lot of below freezing temperatures, and that's important because that's how you turn live fuel into dead fuel. There also looks to be a little speck of blue in the southern mountains PSA, so looks like some of the highest peaks there have reached down towards the freezing mark. Here's the 24-hour RTMA comparison for relative humidity, and you can see it's quite a bit drier across the upper deserts, the southern portions of the southern Sierra, portions of the central Mojave, as well as portions of the western mountains. That being said, though, most of the area is more humid this morning than yesterday morning as a result of a deeper marine layer. You can especially see that across the Sierra, across the central coast, south coast, and the foothills of the three Southern California mountain PSAs. Here's the latest RTMA showing areas of low and high RH. Lots of areas of high RH, meaning 80% or higher, especially along the south coast, central coast, extending through the Central Valley and into the Sierra foothills and into the Sierra as well. The only area that looks to be low RH, which is 15% or less, is on the one little speck on the eastern side or the leeward side of the southern mountains PSA, which is outside of the marine layer. Here's the 24-hour RTMA comparison for wind speed and direction. And areas in that yellowish, orangish color, the winds are stronger today than they were at the same time yesterday, and areas in those blues and violet colors, the winds are weaker today than they were yesterday. So quite a bit stronger across the upper deserts, portions of the central Mojave, especially most notably the southern Sierra, as well as also in the eastern and southern mountains PSAs. Here's the GFS Ensemble 500 millibar height forecast, and you can see that we have that upper trough over the west coast, and it's expected to move eastward. This could bring some fire weather concerns as we get into Monday, as that trough then moves over to the Four Corners region, which will allow for us to have a Santa Ana wind event on Monday. Then we'll have some weak ridging nose its way in, and then a second trough develop and move down over the Four Corners region later next week on Wednesday night into Thursday. We're monitoring that second event, but we're not making any forecast calls on it yet because it's still a few days out, and thus there's still a lot that's subject to change. But just know that we could have a potential resurgence of offshore winds later in the week, and then that will move away, and then we'll have, looks like, ridging moving over the western U.S. As we get into next weekend. Here's the GFS precipitation forecast, and you can see today we have those showers moving from northwest to southeast like you saw in the radar imagery, and they will fizzle out as they move south and eastward. We could also get some snow in the Sierras shown by those blues. Then it should be dry for the next several days, and then it looks like maybe next weekend we could see or early next week another potential system moving in, but that's way too far out to make any forecast calls on that. Just know that there's the potential there, but overall some shower activity today, and then a very dry week ahead. Here's the GFS wind forecast, and we're looking at onshore winds today and tomorrow, but then tomorrow night those winds look to veer and then be out of the northeast and become offshore. And then Monday we're looking at a potential moderate Santa Ana event. Right now the winds look to be in the 15 to 25 mile an hour sustained range. However, gusts are expected up to 45 miles an hour, with even localized spots 55 miles an hour or higher, especially those areas that are prone to funneling from the northeast to the southwest. Then on Tuesday, the winds become onshore again, so that'll allow for RHs to come up a little bit compared to Monday. And then later in the week, we're looking at a second potential offshore wind event. We're not making any calls on that right now. We're not going to give you any speed values on that right now because that's still a few days out and subject to change. However, we are monitoring it and continue checking the webcast and looking at the products over the next few days for the latest information on that potential offshore wind resurgence late in the week. Here is the National Weather Service forecast for the maximum temperature trend. So how are our maximum temperatures trending over the next few days? So this is for Sunday because we start on day 2 for this product. And looks like not much change overall. Depending on where you are, you could be a few degrees warmer or a few degrees cooler. However, then once we get into Monday, looks like warmer across the board, most notably from the western mountains through the Sierra. You could be a few degrees warmer on Monday than you are on Sunday. Then Tuesday, much warmer across the upper deserts, central Mojave, eastern and southern mountains. Wednesday, we cool off quite significantly. Some areas double digits cooler for the high temperature on Wednesday compared to Tuesday. And then we'll see signs of slight warming late in the week as we get into Friday. Here's the day 2 to 7 National Weather Service forecast for minimum relative humidity trend. You can see tomorrow we're expected to be quite a bit drier across the region than today, most notably through the Sierra, then through the Central Valley or the northern half of the Central Valley to the Central Coast, as well as along the South Coast and through the Southern California mountains. Monday, especially across the Southern Sierra and those Southern California mountains, as well as the South Coast, because that's when we're in that Santa Ana event. Then it looks like not much change on Tuesday, except some areas, those minimum RHs are expected to bounce up a little bit as the winds become onshore again. And then later in the week, we're looking at another potential drying trend on Thursday with the potential for offshore wind resurgence. But again, that's still several days out, so we're not making any definitive calls on that. Just know the potential exists there. And then not much change from Thursday into Friday. Here's the National Weather Service forecast for exceptionally low minimum relative humidity, which for us here in Southern California means the minimum relative humidity is less than or equal to 15%. Today, it looks like the only area that gets to that mark is a small portion of the northern deserts. Then as we go into tomorrow, that becomes a little more widespread across the deserts as we have that drying trend, as you remember from the previous image. And then that drying trend continues into Monday. We start seeing 15% or less in the SoCal mountains as well as along portions of the South Coast. Starts to back off a little bit on Tuesday, but then it looks like we could have a little bit more of a resurgence on Thursday and Friday. Here are the nights 2 through 7 National Weather Service forecast for maximum relative humidity trends. So how are our overnight recoveries trending? Well, looking at Sunday into Monday, much drier overnight recoveries, especially across the Sierra, especially the South Coast, Southern California mountains, areas where you see that dark brown especially. Some places, a lot of places 30 to 40 percentage points or more drier tomorrow night compared to tonight. So That sets the stage for the moderate Santa Ana event on Monday, because this is Sunday going to Monday, and then continue drying across the South Coast for the most part, except for a little bit of Orange County, the Southern California mountains, as well as getting into the Southern Sierra and the Southern Sierra foothills, as this is Monday night into Tuesday night. So on the second bookend of the moderate Santa Ana event expected on Monday. Then on Tuesday, when the winds switch onshore a little bit, the good news is we'll start seeing those overnight recoveries bounce upwards, especially along the South Coast and the Southern California mountains. So that's good because it'll bring a little bit of relief to the areas that were just affected by the Santa Ana on Monday. But then as we get into Wednesday night, into Thursday, with the potential for offshore wind resurgence, we'll see that drying out again, especially along the South Coast and the Sierra. And then not much change for Thursday night into Friday. Here's the National Weather Service forecast for poor overnight RH recoveries, which for us in Southern California, that means where the maximum RH is forecast to be 30% or less. So for tonight, it looks like only a small portion of the northern deserts, but then it becomes more widespread tomorrow night, reaching into more than just the deserts, getting into the western mountains, eastern and southern mountains, as well as portions of the South Coast as well. This is Sunday into Monday, so this sets the stage, or is the first bookend of going into our moderate Santa Ana event. Then coming out of our moderate Santa Ana event Monday night into Tuesday, we have a lot more areas of poor recoveries, especially across the Southern California mountains. PSAs, I expect there to be no marine layer that day, just a lot of dry air in the mountains. And you can see that we also have poor recoveries as well along the South Coast. Especially, it looks like in those mountains and high hills around the Orange County, Riverside County border. Then the poor overnight recovery is back off a little bit Tuesday into Wednesday. But then we'll have a resurgence Wednesday into Thursday with the potential for that offshore wind resurgence later in the week. And then the poor overnight recovery stay with us for Thursday and Friday in the Southern California mountains. Here's the observed and forecast energy release components for the dead fuels in the Western Mountains PSA. And I want to focus on this PSA specifically because that's where the biggest concern is for Monday's moderate Santa Ana event. So the ERCs are forecast to increase on Monday due to the dry and windy conditions, drying out the dead fuels even more, as well as the live fuels are expected to dry out more in that area, and the live fuel moistures are at critically low levels. That leads me into our 7-day fire potential outlook, and large fire potential for the most part looks to remain minimal to low, minimal the green colors, low the yellow colors. However, we do have some high risks for the South Coast and the Western Mountains on Monday due to that expected moderate Santa Ana event. So, like I said earlier, we're expecting winds in the 15 to 25, gusts to 45 range, with locally higher gusts to 55 miles an hour in areas that are prone to northeasterly funneling. Last but not least, here's the 6 to 10 day Climate Prediction Center temperature and precipitation outlooks, which are valid from November 7th through 11th. For temperature, areas you see in the gray color, that means the odds show a slight tilt towards near normal temperatures. And then towards the southern portions of Southern California, the odds show a slight to moderate tilt towards below normal temperatures during that time. For precipitation, it looks like everywhere in our domain, the odds show a slight tilt towards near normal precipitation. That concludes today's webcast. The next webcast will be tomorrow, November 3rd, 2024. See you then.